Hey everybody, Mr. Morrell here, and we're going to talk about asymptotes today. It's basically the best video ever because we get to say the word asymptote like a lot. So if you want to pull up a glass of water, and we can do like a water drinking game where every time I say the word asymptote you take a swig, and see if you can make it through this video without having to run to the restroom. That would be super fun, I'm sure. Okay, so here we go. Homework assignment 8.3, asymptotes. We need to write the definition of an asymptote here. So, an asymptote is... Oh, are you guys okay if I just say it and I don't write it? Because as you have seen in my videos before, I suck at writing. So, an asymptote is an invisible straight line on a graph that curved lines get close to but never touch. So let me say that one more time. An invisible straight line on a graph that curved lines get close to but never touch. And if you need to look at the student answer key for this video to make sure you get that, that's great. That's why it's there. Okay, so part of our level 1 thing is we need to be able to know how to write the equations of some straight lines. And here in 9th grade, our asymptotes are going to be pretty basic. Don't worry, next year it's going to get tougher. But for this year, we need to look at these lines here. So the equation of this line here, I know that you already know that it's either x equals 2 or y equals 2, and probably some of you don't know which one it is. Well, if you can remember this is the best way that I have to teach people. This right here is the y-axis, this is the x-axis. Since our dotted line is crossing the y-axis at 2, it's going to be y equals 2. We're crossing the y-axis at 2, so we know that y is 2. Alright, so question 3. Remember, here's our x-axis, here's our y-axis. Since this line is crossing the x-axis at -5, our equation is x equals -5. Now I know it's really hard to see, but that's why I wrote the word line next to it, but here's the dotted line right here. It is on the x-axis. The line is on the x-axis. So some people are tempted to write x equals 0. But remember, we want to look at where the line crosses. The line crosses the y-axis at 0. So even though it is the x-axis, our equation is y equals 0. So let's go down here to level 2. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to love this homework. It's going to be pretty easy. The instructions here are, you will see several exponential functions graphed below. We need to draw the asymptote for that function with a dotted line, then write the equation for that asymptote. So, this is super easy. You just want to kind of look at the graph and see where it looks like. It's going to look like the curvy line is getting really close to a straight line and never crossing it. And we just want to see where that is. So we're going to do a couple of examples here. First one, we'll do this one. I think, if I'm looking at this right, that this curvy exponential function is getting really close to the x-axis here. So that's where my dotted line goes, and that is the equation y equals 0. Okay, so that exponential function is going to get really close to y equals 0, but it's never actually going to cross it. Alright. Oh my gosh, I'm just kind of embarrassed now. Of course, like always, we kind of graduated from y, so if you want to, I'm just, where is my mind? You could write f of x equals 0. I will take either one on this homework assignment since I am the one that made the mistake. Okay, so, once again, let's look at question 7. Ooh, even though this is kind of flipped upside down, I still feel like our asymptote is in the same place here. And it's at it's at f of x equals 0. Okay, so now let's come down here. Question 9. Well, we are crossing the x-axis, so I know that my asymptote isn't in the same place that it was before. But if I'm looking at this carefully enough, it does kind of look like we have an asymptote right here. at the line y equals -1. I know I did it again. It should be f of x equals -1, but since I teach it using the y-axis as our crossing line, that's why you're just going to have to forgive me, and I'm going to let you write either way on your paper. Okay, let's go to the next side, the back side, level 3. Alright, so level 3 is a little bit trickier, and you're going to want to use a calculator. You can use any calculator that you want to. And in fact, I'm going to let you use decimals instead of having to use fractions here. But basically what we want to do is figure out how to actually graph these things. And so the way that we graph them, I think the best way is to make a table that has several different x values on it, and then find the y values, put those dots in place, and we can go ahead and connect them. We're going to assume all of these are, we'll just assume that they're continuous. So grab your calculator. What we're going to do is we're going to start by plugging in -3 in. So in your calculator, you're going to want to push 2 times 3. Find your exponential button. On some calculators, it will look like this. It's going to look like a big X and a little y. Other calculators, it's going to look like the caret. If you need help finding the exponential button on your calculator, you can either ask me, or you can Google it, or ask a parent or a sibling. They probably will know. So we're going to type 2 times 3 to the -3rd power to start off. And again, I'm okay with decimals today. So if you type that all in, you should get something like 0.222. Then let's do the same, but with a 1. 2 times 3 to the 1st power. We plug that in, and we're going to get 0.666 repeating. We'll do the same with a 0. 2 times 3 to the 0 power is just the number 2. 2 times 3 to the 1st power is 6. And 2 times 3 to the 3rd power is 18. So now what I want to do is I want to take each of these rows in the table. Remember, a row in a table is just an ordered pair. And we're going to graph those things. So -3 and 0.22, which is going to be back here at -3, and just a little tiny bit up. The -1.66 is going to be back 1 and just a little bit up. Then 0.2 is going to be right here. 1.6 is right here. And 3.18, you would notice, is off the graph. Okay, so our graph is going to look a little something like that. Cool. Then you're just going to do that same thing for the other functions. And then level 4, question 14, is going to have you looking back at all of the things that we've graphed, looking at the level 2 questions and all that kind of stuff, to see if you can see a pattern for when the asymptote is just y equals 0, or when the asymptote is something different. There's actually a pattern there. I want to see if you guys can look back at those examples and figure it out. Alright, I hope you guys had an amazing time with this video. I wish I had some exit music and like a cup of tea, and I could say something wise and you could feel better about your night. But I don't, so have a good night.